give us examples of when things have gone wrong, and there's just been a few recorded ones in, I think, the CDC maybe, or anecdotes that we've read, but the introduction of plastic, for instance, which is relatively recent, that can be linked to botulism.
Yeah, so there's so many ways to look it up, but because again, there's many versions of food poisoning. Botulism is one.
Right.
There's also, you could have Salmonella, Listeria, and E. coli infect things,
they all
or be present on the meat. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're all different. Generally, though, they all need water. They all do not relish a low pH. They do not like acidity.
Okay.
And they all need water. And the thing about salt is that it removes and binds water. And the thing about cold smoking is it lowers the pH on the surface of the meat. But again, those bacterial things, they are just so unlikely on whole muscle cures. Because if those bacteria would be present, which is very likely that they are indeed present, they will only be on the surface, which is the plane. They're not residing in the flesh, right? Yeah. Like the Greeks and the Trojan horse.
Yeah.
So the surface is precisely the thing to which you are applying the water-binding salt and smoke, acidifying smoke. So they don't like that. What was I saying? Oh, examples. So it depends on which one you want to look up. Like botulism, it's really tricky, for example, to find an example of botulism poisoning by salami. Okay. Defined as a sausage, ground meat, seasoned, salted, stuffed into a casing, and then hung to dry for a while, and then eaten raw. And your definition is very important. And I haven't found one yet that fits botulism in a salami. So actually, I would be interested to know if someone could find that one. The records that I could find online did not have that. It's usually poor canning and the introduction of plastics to Inuit curing methods. Because, it's one thing to bury a bunch of cliff-dwelling seabirds in a burlap sack and let them rot and then eat the flesh raw, which is a thing. It's entirely another thing to bury them in a trash bag.
Yeah.
Because, again, you're creating that anaerobic environment, completely airtight. And then that gives you the conditions for botulism to be created. And then, like bad canning, hence pressure cookers. And I think someone needs to write a history of botulism. I think that'd be incredibly interesting because I'm sure it's had selective biological impact and definitely with food policy. The largest, I guess, societal impact it made was when canning started to happen in industrialized places, when we started to can food. And there were lots of cases of botulism because they had to learn that, boiling is not enough. Right. That does not kill the spore. Botulism was discovered by a guy who heroically, this I think was in the 1860s, but it's been a while, so I might have that wrong. I know it was the 19th century. But a bunch of minstrels, but they weren't even called minstrels in the 19th century, so musicians were at a wedding. And one of the first cases of botulism was not salami, but from a blood-filled stomach. Because, you can catch the blood of a pig and fill its tummy with oats and apples and onions and blood, and then poach it gently. And there's the problem, because you think of blood, it cooks at the temperature, basically, that eggs cook, which is very low, way below boiling. And so when you do that, and then there's also this thing when you cook blood is to not overcook it because it'll burst. And so I just picture, the cook for that wedding not wanting to burst the pig's stomach and undercooking it, and the musicians ate it, and
then didn't it
got
kind
botulism.
Of sit for a while too? That was part of it.
Something, I can't remember.
Enough time had gone by. It wasn't like the fresh product that it should have been. Yeah,
it was probably undersalted and undercooked.
Yeah,
because if it was undercooked, there would be free water in there. Because the thing about blood is when you cook it, it coagulates like pudding. It does what eggs do. They go solid, which is to say, bind all the water. But blood unbound, is just incredibly perishable. It's blood-soluble nutrients, so all the bacteria in the cosmos want to get in on that. Yeah. And then the other one was an undercooked ham.
Okay.
So, and that was one that was smoked.
Oh.
Yeah. So probably smoked in an anaerobic environment, and then not really cooked. It could have been just raw and cured and relatively fresh, meaning pretty close to the kill. And those were the first cases that gave the impetus for the discovery of botulism. And the scientist that named it, I think, he actually contracted it himself and gave it to his dog in the name of science.
Wow.
And they survived, but it's a neurotoxin, so it can kill you, very much kill you, and or mess you up in a permanent manner. So, but he went through it, and they're the ones that named it botulus.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do you know why?
Yeah, because they like Latin names for diseases. That's the thing, particularly in the 19th century. Not because the Romans called sausage botulus, in the sense that, so the toxic food poisoning connotations were only applied to that word in the 19th century.
To botulism.
Yeah. The Roman legions marched across the Mediterranean and all over northern Africa with salami, not with little death sticks called botulism. You know what I mean? That botulus was their word for.
Right. Yeah.
If it wasn't, sal, it was botulus. Meat in tube form. So it acquired its negative connotations in the 19th century.
Right.
Because I hate it when I read authors in cookbooks saying, the Romans used to call it botulus. It's like, yeah, because that was their word for sausage, not food poisoning.
Right.
Because you don't walk around with food poisoning sticks. Like, ugh. I know, sorry. It's just so precise.
Well, yeah, we've heard a number of these silly kind of offhand remarks that are they have this hubris in them from American authors about other cultures, from mainstream, like the biggest names in curing in the industry, kind of in an offhand way dismiss some of the peasant wisdom, or at least the old world wisdom that still exists in other countries, just de facto. Like, well, the Italians, we've read this, the Italians didn't admit to using nitrate in their salami. This was, I won't give the name, but the author, an American author, wrote this about the Italians after they did a recent book, extensive research in Italy. And on the little sidebar of one of the pages, it said none of the Italians admitted to using nitrate in their salami. And that was like really
admitted in,
that was hard for us to read. They didn't admit it because they don't do it.
So they're lying?
Yeah.
Like all of Italy. What exactly are you accusing them of? I don't know. Strange.
Yeah, and we see that all the time in the American literature, and that's why.
Well, the problem with it is that it rejects data.
Yeah.
Like, wait a minute. Are they actually all making salami without nitrate?
Yeah.
That might be something worth
we should
describing.
Ask them about it.
Yeah, how do you do that? What exactly, how are you achieving that?
Yeah.
And that's the French way also when they make saucisson.
Like maybe we should actually write about that.
We could learn something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And fine, in the cookbook say, but for liability's sake, we don't recommend you do this.
Sure. That's their prerogative.
Yeah. But it rejects data, but it also it perpetuates the abstraction of the fear rather than the definition of it.
Yeah.
And that's disempowering. That's discouraging. I don't know. It bothers me. But why are we talking about this? Yeah, examples of botulism.